Elden Ring has a variety of mechanics that you might have never heard of that are very useful to know about. The time has come to learn about these rather obscure tips and tricks with the DLC lingering around the corner, as you can potentially use them to your advantage for the new content as well. Starting with how the Arrow's Reach Talisman is much more useful than you might think. The Arrow's Reach Talisman doesn't just affect arrows, unlike what its description specifies. In fact, it affects a bunch of sorceries, ashes of wars, and incantations. Basically a bunch of spells and skills that travel through the air to reach their target. Its best use case in my opinion is easily Rock Sling, which is definitely also one of the best sorceries in the game, no doubt. And making something good even better, well, that is a win-win situation. Here's an example. Without the talisman, you would never be able to hit an enemy from here, as you can see. But the talisman allows you to go to the absolute maximum distance that gives you the rights to lock onto the target. Then accordingly cast the spell and it will still hit the mob. The additional range for Rock Sling that you get with the talisman is like 35% extra range, and pretty much just for that purpose that makes it worth using a talisman slot to equip the Arrow's Reach Talisman. And if you're still not convinced, look at that absolute insane distance that I assassinated this soldier from. And while the Arrow's Reach Talisman is definitely a very nice talisman, we also have to talk about Margit's Shackles, because it has a very nice functionality outside of its intended use of stunning Margit. You can buy this item from patches, and the additional use it has outside of its intended use is that you can use this item to get rid of the illusionary walls in various places in the game. You can also use them to activate or deactivate the various pillar traps in the game. It's an item that you can use infinitely, and it only costs a few thousand runes, so it's definitely a must buy. It is a funny item, because the thing with Margit's Shackle is that its range is huge. If you use it to dispel an illusionary wall that you can visually see, it will not only dispel that wall for you, but also pretty much all of the other illusionary walls in the cave that you're currently in. Makes it very convenient, as with one press of a button, you now pretty much clear an entire cave filled with illusionary walls. And it works exactly the same for fire pillars. You can for example use it to destroy the chariots in Aurisa's hero's grave at pretty much the start of the dungeon, instead of having to go through the entire dungeon, as it gives you the opportunity to deactivate the fire pillar near the entrance for you from a huge distance, resulting into the chariots colliding and you getting your rewards. This means that the massive range of the shackles isn't just horizontal, and it extends to a vertical axis as well, and the effect reaches very high or very deep places. As you can see right here, I'm using these shackles, resulting into activating or deactivating the trap that is very far away. It really is a must-have item. But have you heard of Flame Cleanse Me before? So this incantation, when you use it, will alleviate buildup of poison and scarlet rot for you, and cures you if you have them. But that's not all what it's capable of, because in addition it will also remove frostbite if you get that on you. The reason for this is because this incantation deals a little bit of fire damage to you when you use it, and thus in this case you will remove the frostbite on you every time you use this incantation. This makes it a very useful incantation to always have around, and it gets even better because it only requires 12 fate use and doesn't cost much FP at all. This makes it a very efficient tool because it will get rid of 3 different status effects for you, with pretty much demanding nothing from you in return. More epic tricks are coming. But first, this video is brought to you by Manscaped.com, the one and only men's lifestyle brand that has taken care of over 20 million balls. Today I'm showing off a top-notch quality bundle product known as the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, which comes with a lawnmower first of all, and this thing takes grooming precision to a whole new level with their next-gen dual skin-safe blade heads, existing of an upgraded trimmer blade which features longer, wider and rounded teeth that cut elegantly through hair with ease. And the revolutionary foil blade is designed to leave you with a finish that is irresistibly sleek and utterly bare. Start your trimming session using the trimmer blade, then easily pop it off and attach the foil blade to top it off yourself. These two are an amazing duo. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra also has a bigger LED light to lighten up obscure areas, and introduces a brand new dual temperature feature thoughtfully engineered to embrace and flatter multiple skin tones. And yes, this piece is also waterproof like all the classic Manscaped products. The bundle then also comes with also waterproof the Weed Whacker 2.0, and this bad boy is designed to tackle those nose and ear hairs with ease. And finally we have the Crop Soother and the Crop Preserver, water to elevate your self-care routine. The Crop Soother provides you essential moisture and soothing relief, while the Crop Preserver is a ball deodorant to keep the funk at bay. If you buy the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra right now, you get 2 gifts: the Boxers 2.0, which comes with an exclusive pouch, and the Shed 2.0, which keeps all your gear organized. Head over to manscaped.com to get your hands on the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra today. When you use my promo code, you'll get 20% off, plus free international shipping, plus 2 free gifts. So check it out, your balls will thank you. Now, for a bunch of weapons in the game, when you use their charged attacks, you will just do the charged weapon attack of that weapon. Makes sense, right? But there is actually a built-in type of hidden combo for some type of weapons in the game. For example, if you use curved swords, you can also do an alternative charged type of attack, instead of just the regular charged attack that belongs to the weapon class. In that case, if you press the charged attack button, but also press the dodge button while you're attacking, then you will attack, but you will follow it up with a dodge backwards. It's a nice little way to dodge attacks quickly after hitting something, or for example misleading your opponent in PvP. And this trick also works for thrusting swords or rapiers, by the way. The same principle applies there. Instead of just having the regular charged attack, this weapon class also allows you to do the charged attack into a backwards dodge. Crystal darts are much more useful than you might think, and are quite easy to craft as well, making them a very handy tool. If you throw them at imps or watchdogs, you will mess them up, and instead of just attacking you, they will now start attacking each other. This is nice, because now you can just go and grab some popcorn and enjoy the show while they kill each other for you. Considering a lot of dungeons are ridden with aggressive imps and watchdogs, these darts are a very nice tool for you to make your life much easier when you have to go through one of these dungeons. Somewhere in the early parts of Var's questline, you will get the Pure Blood Knight's Medal. This item is much more useful than it initially seems to be, because it gives you an opportunity to teleport, and unlike normally, you can actually use this item to teleport while in combat. And let's be honest, we've all had that moment of feeling like we screwed ourselves when you have too many runes on you and you just entered a boss fight and now you're stuck. But now you also realize you don't want to actually lose all those runes, but instead want to make good use of them. And this is a really good example of where this item provides to be very useful, as you can just use it mid-fight, wave to the boss, and then teleport to a safe location without enemies. If your horse gets injured during battle, then you can really easily heal him up without needing to use your own healing flask. Use the Roa raisins for this purpose. It's actually a food item that many people don't know about, but it's made for Torrent, and when feeding it to him, he will heal up again. Making Roa raisins is really easy, as it only requires one Roa fruit for every Roa raisin. And if you're familiar with Roa fruit, then you know that you can just get it pretty much everywhere and get a bunch to quickly heal your horse. If you play co-op, then the Deathbed Dress is a really nice item to have, as you will heal your allies. You won't heal yourself though, and this might make you think that this item is completely useless in single player. But you can actually get its benefit as well in single player. Just make sure that you have a Mimic tier and then equip the dress, resulting into your Mimic tier also wearing it. And since the Mimic tier is your ally, 1+1, you will get healed when you're standing close to the Mimic tier. And while getting healed is cool and all, what is also cool is Raptor of the Mists, a very underrated Ash of War that makes you phase through all kinds of deadly things, like those chariots for example. And best thing is you can put this Ash of War on many weapons, including very lightweight daggers, creating a tool for yourself to dodge through all kinds of deadly things.
Using your pouch isn't just useful for summons or lightning sources, but it's also great to put one of your flasks in it. Putting one of the 2 FP or HP flasks in the pouch will make you have instant access to both of your flasks at any time, unlike when you put them both in the bottom menu option. And in that case, you'll also have to scroll between multiple options in the menu, so it adds another step to switching between the two. It's useful to put one of them in your pouch, because when you really need to heal for example, or quickly need FP, you will immediately get it and don't have to worry about first scrolling to drink the flask you want in the moment. And you can then also use both of them very quickly in succession like that, which is another benefit.
Also, if you have a lot of spells, then make sure to put an important spell in the first memory slot, because you can always access this spell instantly by holding down the up button. You will instantly jump back to the spell in the first slot as indicated by the red glow. And while pouch tricks are nice and all, we have to talk about Softcaps. Let's do a quick reminder of how Softcaps work in Elden Ring.
Let's go over all stats. For Vigor, the first Softcap is at 40, and the second one that will diminish your returns way more is at 60. For Mind, this will be around 55 to 60, but hold this one in mind for now. For Endurance it's 50, and for Dexterity and Strength they have 3 different Softcaps actually, namely at 20, 55 and 80. For Intelligence, Fate and Arcane it's going to be 20, 60, 80 for a caster that actually casts sorceries and incantations, and 20, 50, 80 for a melee build that uses these stats on their swords to scale their damage that way. Now for the damage related stats, the small diminishing returns that start to kick in after 20 are not really relevant. After 20 you will still get a lot of value in return for investing points in the stat, no matter your build, so by all means just forget about that one for now. Then whether you want to invest beyond the first soft cap or the second soft cap is really going to depend on your specific build and what you're trying to do. Now generally, but not always, hybrid builds will be more interested in the first soft caps of the damage stats, which in these cases are the ones around 50 to 60, while pure damage builds that mostly rely on one stat will want to go all the way to 80. The most important takeaway though is that you really do not want to go beyond the soft cap at 80 for any of the damage stats. 60 for Vigor or 50 for Endurance, as at that point you barely get any value anymore for your investments. A fully upgraded Flask of Cerulean Tears gives exactly 220 FP. And when you have 40 Mind, so about 20 levels below its actual soft cap, you will have exactly 220 FP as well. Therefore it's not really worth it to go beyond 40 Mind in any case, as you will never be able to get more FP than 220 FP with a single Flask. Everybody hates poison, but it's especially worse if you roll in poison, so don't roll in poison. It's a mistake that will be costly in Elden Ring, as it will make the bar fill up way faster. Instead of rolling through the poison fields, you'll simply just want to run as fast as possible, or consider using the next trick that I'm going to show you. When you walk over lava, you'll notice that you'll be locked to walking slowly, and this can be deadly depending on what level you are and how long it takes to get to a safe spot. But you can circumvent this by using a dagger with the quick step or its upgraded version, the Bloodhound Step Ash of War, on it, and you can use that to really quickly travel over the lava to a safe spot, and with that negate as much damage as possible. A bunch of daggers in the game that you pick up will have this Ash of War on them, so it's really quite an easy solution to the lava and poison problem. So deconstructing the Ash of War of the spear, there are three main ways to apply the damage from the Ash of War on your enemy. Variation 1 being missing your enemy with the melee part of the Ash of War, so the actual blade of the spear, and missing the subsequent explosion that comes from the Ash of War. Using Flame Frenzy Thrust like this will net you the lowest damage output, because you just missed everything like a complete fool. But the Ash of War is still forgiving enough to give you some damage output with the flames that spread around the battlefield, which is definitely still something, but it's not optimized. Variation 2 is hitting your enemy with both the melee part, the explosion, and the subsequent spread of flames that comes from the Ash of War. And while you might think, wow, that sounds really nice and this will net you the highest damage output, no, it actually doesn't, but it still definitely does good damage, and this is a very viable way to use the Ash of War. However, Variation 3 is missing your enemy with the melee part of the spear, but hitting them right with the initial burst of the explosion of the Ash of War. And this is the option you'll want to always aim for when using the Ash of War. It leads to absolutely bonkers damage output, and it also feels the best when you're playing, because as you see, you will get this initial burst that isn't there with the other two options. However, option 3 does rely on correct spacing relative to where your enemy is standing, and sometimes timing, and both of these things obviously require experience, so you'll have to practice a bit with the weapon before you really get it down. If you fail to get the spacing right because you're too far away, you end up doing Variation 1, which results in the least amount of damage, which is also the actual reason why I mentioned it, because why would you otherwise end up doing that when Variation 2 exists? But Variation 2 is what happens when you are too close to your enemy. So as you see, there's quite some nuance to how the Ash of War works, and getting the spacing right consistently is a matter of experience that you will get the more you use the weapon. However, with that being said, Variation 2 still deals good damage, but if you can, always obviously try to aim for Variation 3. If you remember, some time ago I featured a trick in a video of mine using rainbow stones for determining whether you can make a certain fall or if it will kill you. Alternatively to that method, you can also just use the forward momentum of attacking with a weapon to see if the fall is going to be fatal or not. If the game prevents you from going any further, then it means the fall will kill you. And if the game lets the forward momentum of the swing of the weapon make you go forward while you're on a ledge, then it means that the fall will not kill you. A useful tactic if you want to reset aggro or drop combat in a certain area is to just quit and load back in, and you will have reset all the aggro of that area. This is especially useful if you want to get OP early, for example, and thus are a low level picking up stuff in higher level zones, and you don't want to deal with mobs or enemies attacking you, especially the ones that attack you from very far away will often keep aggro on you no matter the distance, and this trick does wonders because quitting the game and subsequently loading back in just resets all of that and you can continue like nothing ever happened. Volcanic pots are highly underrated, and if you know, then you know. These are especially useful on melee builds as they give a really nice ranged option that is pretty much free to craft. For example, a very practical use case of this pot is versus those annoying and aggressive hands that you can find in the mountaintops of the Giants area or in Caria Manor. The damage has a nice spread and it's an AoE type of damage, resulting into you easily chain staggering these hands and killing them off like that. They deal good damage, and as I said, they are pretty much free to get, and that is really the case because they only require volcanic stones, and Mount Gelmir is pretty much filled with these type of stones. Torrent is your horse, and when you're mounted you obviously can't use your roll to dodge attacks, and sometimes just sprinting away from an attack won't cut it. Think of those AoE attacks that are just too big to run away from. This tip is an incredibly useful thing to consider as it can 100% make you live or die in a fight. When you press L3 when you're mounted, you will dismount, and in the period that your character is busy dismounting, you are invulnerable to damage. This period of being invulnerable is what I called before iframes. With that information in mind, you now have a way to make sure that when you're mounted you can always prevent incoming damage.
12 faith unlocks a lot of useful spells, and with such a low faith level you get spells that heal you, like the amazing bestial vitality spell that heals you over time, or a quick heal with the heal spell. Spells that remove annoying status effects like the earlier mentioned Flame Cleanse Me, but also spells like Bestial Constitution and Cure Poison that remove blood loss buildup and poison, respectively. A key point is then also all the fortification spells, which with only 12 levels in faith will give you 35% damage negation against any of the respective elements that it fortifies you against. These defensive spells are incredible. Then there's also powerful weapon buffs with only 12 faith that make your weapon stronger, powerful spells like Rejection, but also the infamous Pest Threats that can trivialize big bosses even with such a low level investment with an upgraded seal just due to the sheer number of contact points that the spell has, and then Poison Mist that allows you to defeat powerful enemies many levels higher than you by sneakily applying poison to them with this spell. And as you see, a lot of good stuff with such a low faith investment, which makes going for 12 faith highly recommended even if you're not playing a faith build. In similar fashion, having low level intelligence can also supplement your build very well, with say Rocksling with only 18 intelligence. For example, we can keep using Rocksling to deal with distant or hard to reach targets, but also build up poise damage with this spell at the same time as well. And say we can use Gravity Well to destroy hard to reach enemies like birds, and this spell is also thematically very fitting. Then we can also use Glintstone Icecrack, for example, to build up frost on our enemies, which gives us a nice initial burst of damage, but being frostbitten also means our enemies get their damage absorption reduced by 20%, which in turn means we will also deal more damage to them. And those are just a few examples of how you can supplement a already very powerful build. And if you want a good build where a low intelligence level can really give additional power to your build, then check out my God of Destruction build. It really brings home the idea of how in that case a pure strength build gets enhanced by some intelligence levels.